Hey everybody. I noticed that there were a lot of playthroughs of the base game of Leaving Earth um, on BGG, but there were no playthroughs of the Outer Planets expansion. So I thought I would give that a try today. However, I should point out that I'm relatively fairly new to, I should say fairly new to Leaving Earth. I put in a lot of time to try to come up to speed, but I guess I should point out that there's a chance, of course, that I may make a mistake or two in this playthrough. And if that's the case, I would welcome comments and corrections from anybody and everybody out there. And if I screw this up badly enough, then I'll scrap it and do a second video. But I thought I'd give this a shot. Just to get an Outer Planets playthrough out there. And as you can see, I am not going to be using my playing pieces today. If you've watched any of my other run-throughs or tutorials, you know that I like programming my board games, especially my solo board games, because it makes it far easier to play them on a computer, and in this case, far easier to record them for purposes of a playthrough. So I pretty much debugged the program. It works pretty well, but if there's a little bug or two, I'll point it out, and hopefully we'll be able to get around it. I think you'll be able to follow along pretty easily. I was debating whether I should do an easy, a normal, a hard, or a very hard playthrough, and I guess I decided that let's go with hard. I found that easy and normal are really, really easy, even for a beginner like me. I'm not quite sure I'm ready for very hard, so I thought I would compromise on hard today, and let's see what happens. This will be interesting. Okay, so here you go. The Leaving Earth with the Outer Planets expansion. So let's start by looking at what we have here in the way of missions. So we have a sounding rocket, a man in space. So these are all the easy missions. And then these are the non-explorable missions that got added. So a grand tour. That means 1972 is our key year. And my program does warn me about that in case the grand tour is out there. So I'll have to keep that in mind. A survey of Io, Callisto, Titan, and Uranus. Well, Uranus is a piece of cake if we're doing the grand tour. And then we have to check out Venus and Ceres to see if we can land on those planets. Oh, and we want to get a man in space too, but only, at least only a man in space. Okay. All right. Well, what are we going to start with? So we're going to start by gearing up. So let's, obviously, I like to start with Saturn rockets because you don't go anywhere without Saturn rockets. So let's get the Saturn rocket advancement. So anyway, here, this little pane shows all my advancements and all of my outcome cards. So 3 outcome cards have been drawn. My program actually lets me helps me to remember what I've drawn, or I can turn that feature off. So it just tells me the number of outcome cards without reminding me what I've drawn in the past. I don't have a great memory, so I don't think it's cheating to keep the feature on that I'll remember in which cases I actually drew a success and what I think my odds are and so forth. So I'm going to leave that feature enabled. And then with the $15 remaining, I will add a Saturn rocket. So that takes care of 1956. Moving on to 1957. So clearly we're going to need surveying for all those survey missions. So let's get surveying added. And with my 15 remaining, I'll add another Saturn rocket. I'm going to need a whole supply of Saturn rockets to get all my missions up into space. Moving on to 1958. So for outer planets trips, you clearly need ion thrusters, so I'll research that. And add another Saturn rocket to my supply. So I've got 3 Saturn rockets standing by, and I've so far researched Saturn and ion thrusters and surveying. And moving into 1959. Let's see those missions again. Well, I don't have any advanced surveys yet. I mean, those don't turn up. I don't think there are any non-explorable advanced surveys. They turn up when you start revealing and exploring outer planets. So I probably should buy at least 1 Galileo probe. Also, I don't know what the solar radiation situation is yet. So let's buy. Let's see, with $25. Let's buy a Galileo probe for 5. That leaves 20. And then for the remaining 20, I'll just buy 2 ion thrusters. So I've got all that collecting down here. And we're going to 1969. Okay, so I like to test my rockets. I'm pretty risk averse, I should say, right up front. I do a lot of testing. Yes, it's a space race game, and yes, you know, you're trying to move as quickly as possible. But I also don't think it's terribly realistic, as far as theme goes, to start launching a lot of stuff into space without testing it thoroughly, especially if astronauts are involved. I'm pretty sure NASA did most of their testing on the ground and only a little of testing up in space. So I prefer to do testing down on the ground, and so I'm going to start by, I guess I'll start by testing my ion thrusters, because they're going to get a lot of heavy use. So I'm probably going to test these to death. So the first test was a success. I'll go ahead and pay the $10 to remove that. So now we've got 2 outcomes unknown. I'll test another one. This time we got a major failure up here. I'll pay $5 to remove that. And I'll test one last time. We got a success. And so now ion thrusters are completely reliable. All the outcome cards have been removed. So we have $10, I guess, so we'll add another ion thruster to the pack. And should we move into 1961, or do I guess I have enough to do a test of a Saturn. I do a testing of a lot of rockets, but I don't tend to test my Saturn rockets on you know, off the launch pad, so to speak, because they are expensive. Oftentimes, they're the most expensive part of a mission. So if it's going to blow up, it might as well blow up with something else attached to it, in hopes that it won't blow up and we'll be able to get that something else launched into space. So I'm going to leave the Saturn rocket testing for the launch pad. So let's set up rocket number 1 here with a Galileo probe. And we'll put 3 ion thrusters on it. I find that's a good number of thrusters for general space travel. Sometimes, especially if I'm going to get into Jupiter orbit, I sometimes will need more thrusters. Again, depending upon how my ship is outfitted. But in general, I find that 3 ion thrusters are usually enough. And I also know from experience that one Saturn rocket is enough to get all that into space. So let's get this ship onto the launch pad and try to get it into Earth orbit. Yes, so I need exactly 200 thrust. So my Saturn rocket provides that, and now my ship has gotten into Earth orbit, and now I can check for solar radiation. So let's see what the solar radiation situation is. This could potentially affect whether or not I need probes or Galileo probes, although you generally need Galileo probes for the advanced survey missions anyway. This will impact, to what degree I can do that manned space mission. Anyway, let's explore solar radiation. And no, good. So no significant radiation. So that's one less thing to worry about. All right, good. So what next? I guess we can just move this ship onward to, well, actually, let's see. We've probably gotten a couple missions here. Yeah, so we've got sounding rocket completed, easy missions. And we have artificial satellite completed. So we've got 2 missions down so far. The easy ones go pretty quickly. And, all right. So now I guess we can move this ship on to interplanet transfer. I'm going to want to get here to survey Ceres, and then move on to Venus to survey Venus, just to see if I can use this Venus landing mission and this Ceres sample return mission. So let's move that on to interplanet transfer. Okay, so that will take a year to get there. I have this weird thing going on with my video recording software. It doesn't always show me what I'm dragging on the screen. So it may look a little awkward sometimes when I drag things from a ship from one location to another, because I can't actually see what I'm dragging, and you probably won't see it either. You'll see the mouse move, but you won't see the item that I'm dragging move with it. So I just, you can see I kind of plop that ship on the border between IPT and Earth orbit, but I know it's in IPT. And over here we have this 1, which means there's 1 hourglass on it, so we won't arrive until next year. Okay. So, what else should we be concerned about here? We've got, well, we don't have any money, so let's just move on to 1961. Okay, so now this ship has arrived, and we can explore Ceres. Let me just move it closer to the center, and let's explore Ceres. Okay, so Ceres has lots of supplies and water and so forth, so landing on Ceres will not be an issue. I don't think we will need the supplies unless a man on Ceres pops up. I don't think that's likely at this point. Probably not at all, since we've seen all the base game missions now, so there are no Ceres missions that require a manned flight going out there. Okay, so let's move this now into Venus orbit. Now you can see I don't have to specify the thrust. When I'm using ion thrusters, my program knows, checks the ship to make sure I have enough ion thrusters on board in order to make the trip. And so in that case, it showed me how much thrust I needed, but it moved on because it knew that the 3 ion thrusters were sufficient for me to get this mass of 5 across this difficulty of 3 into Venus orbit. Okay. Should I start let's start worrying about the manned space mission. So we're going to need, obviously, re-entry and clearly life support. And we have $5 left. So we'll buy a Vostok capsule for our astronaut. We'll buy him some supplies to last 1 year in space, just in order to get him for that manned space mission. And with the $2 remaining, I guess I'll just add a probe. Not that I'll probably use it, but I'll probably just be using Galileo probes. But I hate to see money go to waste. Okay, moving on to 1962. So we've arrived in Venus orbit, and we can check out Venus now. Oh, so Venus will not allow landing a spacecraft. So that's a mission that's going to go away. So the Venus lander mission is off the books now. One less mission to worry about. All right. What do I want to do with this ship? You know what? I'm just gonna leave this ship parked in Venus orbit, and I'll plan to use it for my grand tour. But I won't need that for another decade. So I'll just kind of have it circle around in Venus orbit until I need it. And to the extent I want to have set up other missions, I'll just launch other spacecraft. All right, so okay, we definitely need landing to land on Ceres. We're going to need probably Rendezvous and Soyuz rockets and Atlas rockets. I generally don't bother with Junos. I'm going to do some more testing. I want to be sure life support is working. Now, this might be a point of contention. Some people might say that you can't test life support unless you're in space. But again, thematically, I don't think that really flies. I think NASA would be testing this on the ground. They're not going to send an astronaut into space without testing life support capability. I mean, they might test it in suborbital flight, but I think it's safe for me to test it on the ground. Although you might argue that that's not technically legal under the rules of the game. And honestly, I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and test life support on the ground. So we got one success. I'll pay $10 to remove it. So now I'm down to 5. What the heck? Let's test it again. Okay, so I got a minor... What did I get? A minor failure? Yeah, minor failure. So I have the $5 to pay for that. And let's see what the deal is with the last one. Okay, so the last one was a success. It's off the board. So now I know that life support is working flawlessly. So I'm happy with that. I don't have any money left. So let's move into 1963. And now I think I'm going to test landing in the same fashion. Again, you might argue that I shouldn't be testing this on the ground, but I remember lots of movies of NASA testing all sorts of landing apparatus on the ground. So I think this is perfectly legal from a thematic point of view, as I mentioned. So anyway, my first landing test is a success. I'll pay $10 to remove it. My second landing test is also a success. I'll pay another $10. And then my last one is just another success that goes away on its own. So now, ion thrusters, landing, life support, Oh, and surveying. When I surveyed Ceres, I didn't even notice that I didn't get a failure, thank goodness. So surveying is also fully reliable at this point as well. Okay, so I've got $5 remaining. I don't think I can buy much with 5. I haven't researched Atlas rockets yet. Oh, I guess I could buy a Galileo probe, so I'll buy one and have it on hand. Okay, so now we'll move into 1964, and I guess we can get our manned mission ready. So let's oh yeah, this ship number 1 is just parked in Venus orbit until 1972. I have to remind myself that. So for ship 2, we'll bring on this Vostok capsule, and we'll need a year's supplies. Well, I will need an astronaut, of course. So let's. I don't think it really matters. Fully tested life support, so I don't need a somebody who can repair life support. I'll just add somebody like Alan Shepard. Although at this point, for this mission at least, I think I'll test landing and rendezvous later. So we'll just add Alan Shepard to this spacecraft, and a Saturn rocket should do it. So again, I am taking a gamble here with the Saturn rocket because it's not fully tested, and I'd hate to kill an astronaut right from the beginning. I wonder if I should test it once. Oh, I do have one success for my earlier launch, so I know I have at least a 1 out of 3 chance. Oh, what the heck? Let's gamble and see what happens. So let's move this onto the launch pad, and let's try to launch it into space. And let's cross our fingers. We're also going to have to check suborbital flight, of course, to see if there's any ill effect on Alan Shepard, potentially. We might need to roll a die. Anyway, here's our big test of our Saturn rocket. This one's a little more critical because we have a man on board. Oh, great. Ooh. Okay. So that's 2 successes so far. I'm going to hold off on paying, which that may come to haunt me, but I'm going to hold off on paying. And now we'll check suborbital flight. And no, nothing to worry about there. So that's good too. So no rolling of the dice, at least not yet. Okay, so that gets us, oops, I don't need my worksheet, I need my missions. So we got man to space and back, and space station has to be, so we have to wait until the beginning of the year. It's clearly going to not be a problem because we have the supplies and we know that life support's working, but I'll wait before I achieve those missions. So with my remaining $20, I guess I'll get rendezvous, and I need Soyuz and Atlas. I'll get Soyuz for now. I'm not sure I'm going to be doing aero braking today. Anyway, I'm down to $0, so let's move on to 1965. Okay, so life support functioned without a problem. We consumed the supply to keep Alan Shepard alive. My program does that automatically. So now I guess I can at least keep clicking that button by accident. Now we've got man in space achieved. Oh no, space station achieved. And we won't get man in space achieved until we get this guy back on the ground, which I guess we can do right now. Yeah. So we know that. Oh, we haven't tested reentry. I'm going to test reentry on the ground, separate from this spacecraft. I don't want to take a chance without having any of these checked. Okay, so I got one success. I want to pay to remove that. I will. And I'll test it again. Oh, we got a failure. I'll pay to remove that. And let's just test it the third time. Okay, so now it's fully reliable. Okay, so now I can land this guy without having to worry about re-entry. So let's drag it back to Earth. It lands without a problem. So we now know that man in space has been achieved. We're going to man to space and back. So I'm done with this ship. And I can put the Vostok capsule and Alan Shepard back into my supply of parts down here. Sorry to call you a part, Alan, but that's just the way it is. So we've got $10, and let's go ahead and use that to research Atlas rockets. That may be the extent of all my research at this point. So I have no money, so let's move on to 1966. And maybe I'll buy some Soyuz and Atlas rockets and begin testing them. So let's buy one of each. And we'll start by testing a Soyuz rocket. So that's a success. Do I want to bother paying? I guess so. And we'll test this Atlas rocket. Okay, that suffered a minor failure. Oh, I didn't have the money on hand, so I can't pay for that. Darn it. So the rocket was damaged, but it's in my parts inventory, so it's going to get repaired automatically. I have $2 remaining. I might as well use it to add a probe. And we'll move on to 1967. And let me add another Soyuz rocket and maybe another Atlas rocket. And I haven't started testing Atlas rockets, so let's... No, I did. I got that one minor failure. So this time I got a success. I won't pay to remove that. Let's try the other Atlas rocket. Darn it, I got another success. All right, let's go ahead and pay to get rid of it. We'll test the Soyuz rocket, and that's successful. But I didn't have enough money to remove it. So now at least I know I have at least a 50-50 shot on Soyuz and a 50-50 shot on failing of the Atlas rockets. I got $2 remaining again. I'll get another probe just for the heck of it. All right, let's move on to 1968. Clearly I need at least, let's see, buy 2 Atlas rockets. Let me start by testing those. Okay, so I got a success. Well, now I know I've got the success and I've got the minor failure. So do I gamble on the other Atlas rocket because I really want to get that minor failure out of there, but I'd prefer not to have to pay an extra $10. Oh, shoot. Let's not pay. So let's test this other Atlas rocket and hope I get a failure. Oh, good, I did. All right, so I pay to remove that. So I've got one outcome card remaining in Atlas rockets. It's a success. I know it. So as far as I'm concerned now, my Atlas rockets are reliable. I've got $10 remaining, so we'll add a Soyuz rocket with that. And again, I'll add another probe. I'm going to have all these probes for nothing. I'll probably never use them. But I hate to see money go to waste in this game. All right, 1969. Okay, so my program is warning me that 1972 is approaching. I don't have to worry about anything yet. I will, just when 1972 comes around, I have to just make sure that this ship gets to Venus flyby by 1974. That's when the big slingshot to Jupiter flyby occurs. So I can wait to move this until 1972 comes around. All right. I guess I should test. I got one success on Soyuz and one unknown, and one Soyuz rocket. I think I'm going to hold off on that for the moment. What else haven't I haven't tested Rendezvous. Let's do one test of Rendezvous and see what happens. So I get a success. I'll remove that. So that's a 1 out of 3 minimum shot of success. Oops, where am I? Oh, I removed it. So now I've got 2 unknown outcomes on Rendezvous. I think with the other 15, I want to add another Saturn rocket to my supply. Anytime I see $15, I usually add a Saturn rocket. Okay, 1970. All right, so for this Ceres sample return mission, I'm going to need a couple Atlas rockets and a couple Soyuz rockets. Let's buy, we'll buy 2 Atlas rockets, and I guess another Saturn. Is that magic number 15? Okay, so let's move on to 1971. What do I want to do now? Now I have to start thinking here. I've got 3 Atlas rockets. 1, 2, 3. Let's see, I'm going to need at least 3 for the Ceres sample return mission. And then I may need some for survey missions that I might mount later. I like to, for my other survey missions, not only will I use a Galileo probe, but sometimes I like to include an Atlas rocket in case I need to, in case I survey something and a landing mission comes up and I need to dump the thrusters and land someplace. It's nice to have that Atlas rocket standing by. It's a little more expensive, obviously, but I don't know. Just from my experience of playing Outer Planets, I find sometimes it's nice to have those Atlas rockets on board in case you ever need them. Sometimes they don't go, sometimes they go to waste, but sometimes not. Anyway, what do I want to add here? So let's add another Atlas, and then I'll just stock up on ion thrusters. How many of those do I have so far? I only have 2. That's not going to be enough. Okay, moving on to 1972. Okay, so the magic year has arisen. Now, if you haven't played, let me bring up my NASA map. You can see that if you look up here in the bottom left corner, if you haven't played Outer Planets yet, or you only played it a little, I'm sure if you have played it at all, you're way beyond me. But for those of you who don't own it yet and haven't played it, 72 is a magic year from Earth because it gets you to Venus flyby in 74. This column in the bottom left corner. Then it gets you to Jupiter flyby, and then it gets you to tour all the planets in one straight shot without any delays. Now, clearly, my ship is not on Earth right now, but it doesn't matter. It's still going to take me 2 years to get from Venus orbit to interplanet transfer, and then from interplanet transfer to Venus flyby. So that's basically the same as launching it from Earth. So I am going to move this ship now to interplanet transfer. Again, I've got 15 thrust, which is more than enough to move my mass of 5 across a difficulty of 3. I can get rid of this card now. Anyway, this is the column I was talking about. I should have pointed it out. So this is the magic column as far as the Grand Tour is concerned, which is why 1972 is so important. Okay, so that ship won't arrive in interplanet transfer until 1973. So, am I ready to set up for my Ceres sample return? I don't know if I've got everything I need. Well, at the very least, I need a probe. And I think, darn it, I've done this before. Well, I'm going to use my worksheet. I've got a worksheet built in, basically similar to the paper copy worksheet. So I'm going to take this probe, mass of 1, from Earth to Earth orbit, from Earth orbit to interplanet transfer. I want to get from interplanet transfer to Ceres, and from Ceres back to interplanet transfer, and there I will pick up a ride home from another ship that I'll set up. So let's see what I need for this. So I need 1 Atlas, 2 Soyuz, and 5 Saturns. Oof. 1 Atlas, 2 Soyuz, and 5 Saturns. I don't think I've got that. I don't have 2 Soyuz, and I don't have 5 Saturns. So let's start buying some stuff. Let's buy another Soyuz, and we'll buy another Saturn, and with $2 remaining, we'll buy another probe. So now, I should start getting this ship laid out. So I've got one Atlas, 2 Soyuz, and 1, 2, 3, 4 Saturn rockets. I need 1 more Saturn rocket, which I won't be able to get on board until 1973 when I have more funds available. So let's move on to 1973. I've arrived in interplanet transfer. So now I'm ready to move this ship to Venus flyby. Again, it has plenty of thrust. It only needed 10 thrust in that case. It had 15. So it'll take a year to get there, but it's arriving in 1974, which is what's critical. Anyway, back to ship number 2. I'm going to add another Saturn rocket, and now this is ready to move to Ceres, I think. 1 Atlas, 2 Soyuz, 5 Saturns, and a probe. Okay, so let's launch this to Earth orbit again. Every one of these, I'm holding my breath a little bit because I still am not 100% sure of these Saturns. I guess I will be after this run. So let's see what happens. 1 Saturn rocket. Okay, it's a success. I'm not paying for them. Another Saturn rocket. Another success. I'm feeling much more confident. Another Saturn rocket. Another success. Okay, I'm feeling really good about the Saturn rockets now. Also, my program will stop asking me after a while when I keep saying no. It's asking me again. I'm going to say no. It's going to ask. Is it going to ask me a 5th time? No, it won't. And my fifth, so now I'm pretty sure that my Saturn rockets are working. That was 5 good successes on only 1 out of 2 known successes. I highly doubt I drew that same success card over and over and over 5 times over specifically. So I'm pretty confident about my, well, actually, I keep looking here. I had 1 success out of 3. 5 launches. That's pretty good odds. I suppose there could be 1 failure still hanging in there, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. All right, let's move this ship to interplanet transfer on the way to Ceres, and Soyuz should be enough with 80 thrust. So let's use the of course, I haven't fully tested my Soyuz, but I got another success. I'm not going to pay for it. I think I'm done paying for outcomes at this point. So that'll take a year to get there. 1 year. So we've got 1 year standing by on ship 2 and 1 year standing by on ship 1, which is en route to Venus flyby. And I've got $10 remaining, so I'll use that to buy an ion thruster. Usually $15 I buy a Saturn, 10 I buy an ion, 5 I buy an Atlas, whether I need them or not. Or a Galileo probe, I guess I should say, with $5. All right, 1974. All right, so both of these ships have arrived. This shot is now going to slingshot from Venus flyby to Jupiter flyby. Again, I'm going to show you in 1974. 1974, we can move from Venus to Jupiter. In fact, I know for a fact that you can move from Venus to Jupiter. You could slingshot there on any even year. I think all the even years, if I look at the calendar, yeah, you can see that every even year allows for a slingshot to Jupiter, whereas every 3 years allows for a slingshot from Jupiter to Saturn. And is it every 5 to get to Uranus? I can't remember, but usually I don't go out to Uranus or Neptune unless I'm on the Grand Tour, and then I don't have to worry. So get rid of that. So anyway, where am I? So it's 1974, so this is now going to slingshot from Venus flyby to Jupiter flyby. It only needed 5 thrust. It had 15, so more than enough again. You can see that the Venus flyby to Jupiter flyby only has a difficulty of 1. So with a mass of 5, I only needed 5 thrust. These slingshots are fantastic. Okay, so this ship is now ready to proceed to Ceres. And that will take a year for it to arrive. And I will use my Soyuz rocket. Again, not fully tested, but I'm pretty confident. Good, I got another success on my Soyuz. So that's en route to Ceres. It'll get there in another year. I've got $25 to spend. That usually means a Saturn and a thruster. I probably should be thinking more clearly. I should be spending more time to think about this, but I don't want this video to take too long, so I'm just kind of blasting through this, so to speak. And again, since I'm a beginner, and as far as I know, I might be making lots of mistakes, I'm not going to spend too much time here. I'm just going to keep plunging forward. So let's move on to 1975. So I've arrived in Jupiter flyby, and now I can survey any number of the moons or Jupiter. And I have arrived in Ceres as well. All right. So let me look at my missions again. Which are the... So I need to survey Io. That's the only Jupiter moon that's up here, at least at the moment. So since I'm in Jupiter flyby, I will go ahead and survey Io. And we got a new mission, an Io sample return has been added. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull that off, but this is another thing with the Outer Planets expansion. It's really, it's still up in the air. I don't know that there's been any formal acknowledgement as to how you win in a solo game playing Outer Planets. Some people play that you've got to have all of the unexplored missions, the non-explored missions, and all of the easy, medium, and hard missions, but you don't have to necessarily worry about getting the add-on missions that get added as you start exploring the Outer Planets. Others think you need to get all the missions, or at least one point more than half of all the missions. It's sort of convoluted. I don't really care. At this point, I just want to do as well as I possibly can do. So that's the way that is. All right. So anyway, where am I? So that ship just arrived in Jupiter flyby. I've surveyed Io. Now I can't survey anything else, because there is a new rule in Outer Planets that you can only do one survey per ship per year. I think I'm interpreting that correctly. So it is time for me to slingshot now from Jupiter to Saturn. I had 30 thrust. I needed 0 because it's a difficulty of 0 to slingshot from Jupiter to Saturn. And I see a bug in my program here. This ship has arrived in Ceres, but it's still showing 1 hourglass. So I'm going to make that 0, because I know that I took a year to arrive. And I got these little bugs sometimes where rockets don't get destroyed or time doesn't get chipped away at. It works pretty well, but just for some reason I haven't gotten all the little kinks out of it. Okay, so as far as this Ceres ship is concerned, I guess at this point I can dump the probe. So I'm going to destroy the probe, and I'll add a Ceres sample. It knows the ship's on Ceres, so it makes the Ceres sample available. I don't need supplies. So I now have what I need I have the Atlas rocket. That's going to get me up to interplanet transfer. I need to get a ship going that's going to pick it up and interplanet transfer. So let's get that ship set up. So that ship, that will be ship number 3. That ship has to get launched, and then from Earth orbit to interplanet transfer, I'll need an Atlas, and then to get back, I'll need another Atlas. So it's going to need 2 Atlas rockets. And I think, what is that? 8 mass. I think that's 2 Saturns. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's 2 Saturns. So, I only have 1 Saturn, but I can add another one. I've got $25. I haven't spent it yet. So let's add another Saturn rocket to that. And we'll move that ship to the launch pad. And at this point, if I get successes on my Saturns, I'm not going to worry about them again. I have a slight tinge about Saturn rockets, but if I can get 2 successes here, I'm very, very happy. So here we go. 1, success. 2, success. Okay. So as far as I'm concerned, Saturn rockets are good to go. And I think I'm pretty confident about my Soyuz. I know my Atlas. At this point, the only thing I'm not sure about is Rendezvous. I guess we'll be testing that soon enough. Oh, I maybe should have added maybe an extra rocket on board this return craft, just in case Rendezvous messes up. Didn't think about that. All right, well, let's see. So this ship needs to get here, but that's going to take 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Ceres to interplanet transfer is 2 years. but this is only 1 year, so this needs to get a head start. So let's get that ship on the way. It'll use an Atlas rocket to get off the planet, and now it's en route to interplanet transfer. So next year, I'll move this ship to interplanet transfer to do a pickup. Okay. So I've got $10. I guess another ion thruster or 2 Atlas rockets. I'll go with another ion thruster. I think I'm done with my advancements. I'm not using Junos. I don't expect to use proton rockets, and I don't think I'm doing any aerobraking. At least I don't plan to. So I'll move on to 1976. All right, 10 years away, and the game will be over. All right, so this is now 1 year away, so now I can move this ship to interplanet transfer to meet up in a year. It will burn an Atlas rocket. So now both of these ships will meet up in interplanet transfer in 1 year. Basically, all 3 of the ships I have out on the board now are 1 year away from their final destination. These 2 destined for interplanet transfer, this one destined for Saturn flyby. And I'm sitting with $25. I guess I should get another probe, survey probe set up. Okay, so we're building, let me get these ships taken care of. So this ship in Saturn flyby is ready to move on to Uranus. So that moves on to Uranus. These ships are ready to dock. That has the Ceres sample. That has the Atlas rocket. So let's rendezvous successful. I wasn't sure about rendezvous, but it's looking good. So let's merge those and separate the 2 aircraft, the spacecraft. Okay, so now which ship can I destroy? That's the empty ship. So that ship gets destroyed. This ship moves to Earth orbit, burns the Atlas rocket, and it'll take a year to get there. It'll take 5 years for this ship to get there. And are all my missions up to date here? So Ceres sample return will almost get done. Yeah, that's looking good. All right, so now back to ship 2, say. I want to build a ship that could potentially land, because I have one more survey to do, Callisto. But I also have at least 1 landing mission, Titan Cloud Explorer, but that requires, I don't think I can get there in the time I have remaining, 9 years. I'd have to buy an Explorer payload. I don't think I have what it's going to take. I could potentially do Io, so I could land on Io, but I'd have to be able to get back. But an Atlas rocket, so let's, for the moment, so let's put an Atlas rocket on board. Let's put on, question is, do I need an extra ion thruster for the Atlas rocket? Let me think about this. That's a massive 8 with 4 ion thrusters. Oh, I need to have a Galileo probe in case an advanced survey comes up. So that's a massive 10. Now, what kind of difficulties am I looking at here? Venus flyby to Jupiter 1, Jupiter flyby to Jupiter orbit. Difficulty of 10? Unless I aerobrake, which I haven't even researched. Let's assume a difficulty of 3. I need 33 thrusts. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I'm short. I'm going to add another Atlas rocket. What would it take to launch this into space? 3 Saturn rockets. And I've got 2. But it's fine because it's an odd year. So I can't, I need to be able to get to Venus flyby in 1980, which means I take off next year. So I'll have what I need next year. So I'm holding off on this. I've got $5 remaining. I'll buy an Atlas rocket, whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, moving on to 1978. So this ship has arrived in Earth orbit. It will come down to Earth. I will get my Ceres sample return. This will go back to the hangar. And I will record Ceres sample return as being a success. Okay. Go back to this ship. I'm adding another Saturn rocket. I don't know. At this point, I just hope it's enough. It's way overkill. I just want to have a ship that has as much stuff on it in case of whatever arises. I don't know. Maybe I'll play a few years beyond 86 if I can pull off that IO sample. If I can get the IO sample, I might want to just bring it home. The other question is, do I research aerobraking? Okay, so I need 600 thrust, which I get out of 3 Saturn rockets. At least I calculated that correctly. And now I'm ready to move this to interplanet transfer. I have to burn an Atlas to get there. Oh, serious? Against a difficulty of 3, a mass of 15, 45, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Way short. So if I spend an Atlas, now I've got enough. Just enough. Okay. So that's it. But now I'm not going to make it from Venus flyby to Jupiter flyby. I'm going to be burning all my Atlas rockets. This was a total miscalculation on my part. I really messed up. I shouldn't have even bothered. Let's research aerobraking just for the heck of it. And move on to 1979. This ship moves on to Venus flyby. Oh, it's got enough thrust for that. Oh, it will be okay on the Jupiter slingshot because it only needs that's only a difficulty of 1. Okay. It's if I have to go to Jupiter that I'm not going to have enough to do what I need to do. I've kind of just screwed up. Let's go ahead and test aerobraking. What the heck? Failed, I'll pay to remove. It was successful, I'll pay to remove, and it was successful. Okay, so I've got fully reliable aerobraking. $10 left over. I shouldn't even, I'm not even going to bother buying stuff from this point onward. There's no point. Moving on to 1980. Still 2 years away from Uranus flyby. This ship has arrived in Venus flyby. Here's the big jump to Jupiter. Oh, I had enough. Okay, so there was enough thrust. I'm just not going to have enough thrust to get to Jupiter orbit. Well, it might take 4 or 5 years because here's where I can add time if necessary. Okay, well, I don't have to worry about that for another year. I'm not going to be in Jupiter flyby for another year. So, although in Jupiter flyby, I can go ahead and scan Callisto. So let's do that. Callisto lander. Okay, well, maybe we can land on Callisto after all. All right, so let's, I've done my Callisto survey. This is the only one I think I can pull off. I don't have enough time to do a sample return, but maybe I can get us the Callisto lander going if I can get to Jupiter. So let's move to 1981. And I have no other scans I need to do at this point. Oh, yeah, so now I'm just trying to move to Jupiter. And the question is, how quickly will it take to get there? So I can use aero braking. It'll be a difficulty of 3. So let's see, if I drag this, difficulty of 3 with aero braking. But I know I succeeded aero braking. With a mass of 11 is 33. So over 1 year, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Over 2 years, 10, 20. Each ion thruster should provide 10. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That's more than enough to get across 33. So I'm going to override and tell it that I've got enough thrust to get to Jupiter in 2 years. So I'll arrive in Jupiter orbit in 2 years. I'll have to adjust my program so I can accommodate air braking. I haven't really done that yet. But at this point, I know air braking works, so I'm good. Anyway, all right, we're ready to move on to 1982. So that ship has arrived in Uranus flyby. I can now survey Uranus. And it's nothing unusual. So I've got the Uranus survey handled. Where are you, Uranus? Right there. This ship now moves on to Neptune flyby. Plenty of thrust. This ship, meanwhile, has another year before it reaches its destination. 83 arrives. We get to Jupiter. And we can do all sorts of exploring. And we do have to do the hazard, the Jupiter hazard. I'm surprised my program didn't remind me of that. We have to, where are you, Jupiter, down here? We have to explore Jupiter and see if we have to roll a die or something like that. And a manned Jupiter flyby has been added. I'm not going to be doing that. Roll die per astronaut. I have no astronauts. Roll die per probe or capsule. I have a probe. 1 to 4, it's damaged. Which doesn't matter now because I don't need to survey anymore. And a damaged probe I can still land, right? Yeah. Okay, well anyway, let's roll the die and see what happens. It is damaged. Okay, so the Galileo probe is damaged. But I guess I could dump it at this point. Oh, wait a minute. I used my Atlas rocket. I don't have an Atlas rocket to land. All this for nothing? Did I damn it. I used up my Atlas rocket. Somewhere, yeah, I messed up calculations somewhere along the way. Well, it doesn't matter. I've pretty much done at this point. I just have to finish off my grand tour. So I'll leave that circling. I have done all my survey missions at this point, right? Man, Jupiter, Callisto, lander. Darn, if I only had a working Atlas rocket. Whatever. Let's advance to 1985. We advanced to 1986. Okay, we arrived in Neptune flyby. I don't need to do a Neptune survey, but I do get the grand tour. complete. So that's my final score, 57. I've basically done all my non-explored missions. The only missions I couldn't get to were the ones that came up along the way. And how many points did those add? 20, 42, 57, oh man, 82? 82 plus 57 is 139. Half of 139 is 70. Yeah, I didn't get half, more than half of all the missions, but I got all the unexplored and all the easy and medium and hard missions. I don't know. I consider that reasonable success. At least I got through the entire mission and didn't blow up somewhere along the way. Let me know if I made any egregious errors. If I did, because the last thing I'd want to do is throw anybody off who is thinking about getting the game or learning about the game. So if I screwed up real badly, please let me know. If I only made some minor mistakes, I'll add those. I'll put in comments. People will have comments to look at, and I can also add notes to the summary page for the video. In any event, hope you enjoyed watching this. At least my program worked for the most part, with only a little bug here or there. Thanks for watching. Let me know how I did, folks. Bye.